Feel my best behavior. So some of you may have met or seen a panel with Dean Taggart, who is in Student Affairs. So he and I work very closely together in the Student Affairs department. He may have told you that Student Affairs manages all of the non-academic aspects of student life. So that would be all of our student organizations and our student government, which in law school is called the Student Bar Association. We have between 30 and 34 student organizations, depending on how many are active in a given year. Just another quick short brief about me. I work with Dean Taggart, of course, with the student organizations. I also manage all of the student counseling. So we have a counseling and wellness center here. My background is a master's in counseling psychology. I'm a licensed mental health counselor by trade, but I am in student affairs and I love it. I also manage all of the non-traditional student programming, which we consider to be our second career students, our students who are parenting, our veteran students. So we know that we have a pretty diverse student group here at Coastal, so we want to offer support to every student that comes along. I do the wellness and alcohol, drug education, stress management, all that stuff. So you will see me pop up in orientation and throughout the year. And I have brought with me today 3 of our student ambassadors. So I'm going to have them quickly introduce themselves, and they're going to be kind of chiming in and helping us out. And the clicker is not working, so I have Annie doing my clicking for me. So you'll have to bear with me as I multitask. So, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, I've met some of you. My name is Alan Babbitt. I'm the current president of the Black Law Students Association. I'm also the pro bono chair of the National Lawyers Guild. I'm a third-year student. I believe she wanted us to give some demographics. So I'm married. I have a 8-year-old daughter. Pretty much a non-traditional student. I worked probably about 8 years in between undergrad and here. So I have a decent view on work-life balance in law school person.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Russell. I'm going to be a 2 hours here, so I was in your school last year. I also was a non-traditional student. I graduated from Florida State in 2010. Took a few years off. I came back obviously last year, 2014, and I have 2 small girls. So I also know what it's like to be balancing school and family. I do a lot of different things. I'm on mock trial, law review, student ambassador, on SBA. Yeah, if you have any questions about that stuff or anything else.
Hi, I'm Janisha. I have 5 kids. I don't have any kids. I'm a traditional student. I graduated from the University of Florida in 2013, and I started law school in 2013. I am the director of student ambassadors, and I'm an ambassador. It's just a legal organization that gives back to the community. And well, I was in undergrad, so I just transformed.
Excellent. So thank you. So they're all very busy, as you can see. And so this panel is on balancing life in law school. It can be done. It is a challenge, but you've got to do it right. So I kind of themed our panel as coastal life. How many people are from Florida? Okay, good number. How many people are from Jacksonville? A few. Well, has anybody heard of Salt Life, the brand? Some people do not know that Salt Life originated in Jax Beach. And so that is I'm a beach girl myself, so that is one of my favorite things about Jax Beach. Surf, fish, just the Salt Life lifestyle. So here we have coastal life. So if you would hit the slide for me. All right, so our goal in being a law student, of course, is to achieve academic success. But our goals are really bigger than that, and they go for law school and also in practice, because the ultimate goal in going to law school is to be a lawyer or something in the field, or something completely not in the field. However, you'll still need these skills. So our goals for being a law student are to be happy, meaning that you can enjoy being in law school, but also enjoy the rest of your life as well. To be healthy, which means that you take care of yourself, and we'll get into that. And to be hopeful means that you're passionate about your career, you like what you're doing, your classes are hard, but you're engaged in them. You know that this is something that you want, you love the law. And so these are the things that are kind of our ultimate goals in student wellness and balancing our life. And then of course, if you have these, you have a better chance of being academically successful. So what happens is that students burn out because they work, because they think they have to do homework all the time and they have to study all the time. And some of that is true, and our students will tell you, but you will burn yourself out very quickly if you do that. So you have to find a good balance, and I'm going to go over that with you guys. Right, sounds about right? All right, slide. Okay, so what are the challenges to balancing in law school? And these are just some things I meet with students all the time, so I have a pretty good idea on what the challenges are and what life in law school is all about. So the first one is course time. Well, if you're taking a full load, you're taking 5 classes, and that takes up a lot of your time just in itself in going to class. Even if you're part-time, that's usually about 9 to 12 classes, so you still have a significant amount of time that you're in class. And of course, then we have the second one, everyone's favorite or least favorite, homework, reading, and preparing. So I think that, to me, one of the biggest shocks that students get is how much time they actually have to spend reading and preparing for classes. So I'm going to hit my panel up. How many hours a week would you say that you spend reading and preparing for classes outside of class time?
I think everyone's different, but I mean, I'm probably going to go with the 20-hour range.
So that's outside of class time,
Yes.
just preparing and reading.
Yes.
How would you say you spend the majority of those 20 hours?
Probably skimming through, getting understanding of cases, analyzing cases, reading similar cases, understanding it as best as I can, finding other articles, getting other teachings on it, just absorbing as much information as I can.
Right, Caitlin?
I would say the same. It would fluctuate though, from class to class, because one week you're going to have a class that has a lot of reading, and then maybe one week you're going to be off on one class. So it really does depend. But a lot of that time you'll spend reading, as you'll soon find out. Reading in law school is much different than reading in undergrad. So you're really looking for a lot of different things. So I would say around that same amount of time.
I spend about 30 to 40 hours outside of reading, but I don't spend that much because I don't read straight through. I would read something, and then sometimes I have to reread what I've read because it's just so different from what you're used to. And so, yeah, it's about 30 to 40 hours.
Thank you, and I didn't prep them with these questions. I'm just kind of hanging them out of the blue. So good job with all of these. And I think, Janisha, you really hit on something that I hear from students all the time is that law school is really nothing like undergrad. It doesn't matter if you were a legal studies major, political science, psychology, sociology, fine arts. It doesn't really prepare you for law school because the content is really dense. It's difficult. It's a lot of reading. And so I think that's one of the challenges that the students see is that they're used to reading and studying one way, and then they get to law school and they're like, I have never had to read this much or do it in this way before. So I want to give students the heads up ahead of time. That's just kind of how law school is. If you go to Coastal, it's like that. Any other law school you go to, I think you would hear the same thing. So it's just a lot, and it is very different. A lot of students, students that come here are very bright. Students that make it to law school are all very bright, and so they're not used to sometimes having to do that much work outside of classes. And I got a shock when I went to grad school. I studied in undergrad. I was a pretty good student, but I wouldn't say I spent 20 to 40 hours a week studying. But when I got to grad school, I was in for a rude awakening, and I think law school is pretty much the same. So another challenge to balance is all the things that are available to you guys. So it's kind of a double bind because there's so much to do here that you can really get involved. But what I see is that students become involved in too much right away, and then they're not spending their time with their academics. And your academics have to come first, because if you don't put your academics first, then unfortunately none of those other clubs and things matter. So you do want to put that first. So I said we've got student organizations, we've got ambassadors, we've got moot court, mock trial, law review, pro bono. I mean, there's something for everybody here, and I do recommend that you do get involved in things at school. But we always tell students, especially in your first semester, don't take on any leadership positions, don't join 10 organizations and spend all of your time doing that. Feel out a couple of organizations, and then get through your first semester or your first year before you start taking on leadership positions, because or else you're going to have a really hard time balancing. And again, you're here to be students, and that has to come first. Networking panels, so you will see if you start school here, or probably any other school, about 2 weeks into the semester, there's going to be flyers everywhere for panels, presentations, activities, meetings, sports. We've got, our SBA does intramural sports. We've got flag football, we've got volleyball, we've got softball, basketball. So there's definitely a lot to do, and you want to make sure that you go to some of those so that you're not missing that, but you also want to make sure that you balance. So then we get to family and friends. So I'm sure we have a lot of guests in here that are kind of listening to this and wondering if they're ever going to see their family member again. And it can be challenging, but you have to still maintain those relationships. They may look a little bit different than they do now or that they did in undergrad or whatever you may have been doing before, but that doesn't mean that the relationship has to suffer. And we do a couples workshop in the beginning of each semester, and we invite partners of students to come and get a kind of a good idea on what law school looks like and answer questions and give some feedback just about how you can work to balance your relationship so that it doesn't suffer. Sometimes we have both members of a relationship are in law school. Sometimes one already went, one's going now. Sometimes, and most often, I think the other partner really has no idea why you go to school all day and then you have to read until midnight. And they're like, I thought we were going to have dinner. And law students like, nope, sorry, can't, but I'll see you in October. And, and so the students come in, and I'm like, well, have you spent any quality time with your parent? Nope, can't. And I'm like, okay, well, you have to find time. And the family members have to understand what is involved with law school, but you want to stay connected to your support system, and you want to be able to spend quality time with people when you're doing that. And so I see that as something that is a challenge in balancing, and some of our students mentioned that they have kids. And I know that that is quite the balance too. And many of our students come in as parents, and sometimes you can put things on the back burner, but when you're parenting, you can't. And so that is something that is pretty tough to balance, but it's workable. Self-care and perception, I kind of wanted to throw that in because you may or may not know that law school is typically on a curve. And so students come in and feel like they need to compete right away. And you see that in media, TV, movies about law school. But it really doesn't have to be that way. Yes, you're on a curve, but students get so caught up in what everyone else is doing and the competition aspect that I think they lose the essence of law school, which is really working together and building relationships, because these are going to be your colleagues in the future, and it's just healthy to have relationships. So students, law school grading is very different. So students that are used to getting A's and B's will start getting C's for the first time in their life, which is on the curve. And students come in crying, and they're like, I've never gotten a C before, and I'm not cut out for this, and I can't do this, and they just totally lose their confidence. And you want to really be aware.
That was so me.
Is that you?
I literally went crying to my dad, law school's not for me, I got a C+, and he just looked at me, and then I started using the resources, but
Yeah.
that was me.
Yeah, because they knew you were a student too, right?
Yes, I graduated from here, so I get it, I survived, and I was a journalism major, so I knew plaintiff and defendant, that's about it.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, you don't have to know a lot about the law to come in. Yes, and Jenny, you were an ambassador too, weren't you?
I was.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's what happens. So anyway, just be careful to really keep yourself in check about how you feel about yourself. It is going to be challenging, but what happens is that you don't want to lose your confidence right away and your perception of yourself, because that's what happens. And students are like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this, and you just got to hang in there. And if you realize that you're not cut out for it, you don't like it, you're not engaged in it, well then do something else. It's not for you, but give it a try. And that kind of the competition, I sort of already covered that. People get so caught up in the competition that they are just overdoing it and burning out. So you want to be careful of that. So those are my challenges. Did I miss anything that you guys can think of before we move on? That challenge make it hard to balance life in law school?
Okay. I just like to tell everyone, just make sure you make time for your family. Enjoy. Don't get caught up with school. School is your number one priority, but you do need to have a social life. If not, you're going to burn out. And it's not going to be fun.
You have to. So hear me say. So students, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I need to go out to dinner tonight or something. Like, no, I can't. I got to read. And what happens is that they feel guilty about any minute that they're not studying or doing their work. And I'm like, you need to give yourself permission to take a break. And that's the student affairs part of law school, is like, you have got to give yourself permission to give a break. You cannot study all the time. And people will tell you, they're like, oh, I studied all the time. I studied all weekend. Students feel bad about themselves. Don't even fall into that trap. Don't worry about it. And don't be the one that does that either. Slide. Slide again. Sorry, this one has like the transition thing. But just do the whole thing so I can see what's on it. Keep going. Okay, perfect. So here's just a couple of tips. So we talked about what the challenges are, but now we want to put out, well, what do you do about them? So I think I need glasses and I'm a little closer. Okay, so you want to be happy. We talked about that. That goes a little bit into what Janisha was saying. Maintain your interests and relationships, your friends, your hobbies, your pets, your creativity, your community involvement. So if there are things that you enjoy doing, don't stop doing them, because then that's what happens. Students burn out. So if you like to paint, if you like to draw, if you like to be involved in your community, your church, you like to do sports, you like to run, keep doing it. Keeping it in your life, because that also helps you maintain your identity. You may not have as much time to do it as before. You may have gone every week, and now you can only go once a month or twice a month. But keep up with those things that make you feel yourself and who you are, and the things that you're good at, and the relationships that you have, because you'll be much better off. Set up your schedule and your routine. I cannot tell you how important it is to have a set schedule and your routine and know what you're doing. And tell people up front, if you have kids, make sure that you spend a certain amount of time from this time to this time. The kids know that that's your special time with them, and you're not on your phone and you're not studying. And same thing goes with the rest of your family. Make sure that if every Friday night is date night, you don't cancel 10 minutes before and be like, nope, sorry, I got to study. Keep those things. And tell your family. Set the limits up front. Tell them this is what I have to do. I want to keep you in my life. Keep that communication open. Choose time to dedicate to your life and don't feel guilty about it. But you have to demonstrate hard work and dedication as a balance. So don't come out of this panel thinking like, I have to study, but I can always have fun and go out and be at the beach every day. Not necessarily true. You're going to lose some of that in law school, but it's all part of the sacrifice and the hard work that you do have to be putting in. Law school is no joke, and being a lawyer is tough too. So these are the same skills that you will use in practice. So I always talk about mindfulness. How many people have their email on their phone 24 hours a day? Just checking. So I recommend, now you always have to do what works for you, but what happens is that students never disconnect, and so they're always, always, always checking their email. They're always feeling anxious about what emails are coming in, and you're not being in the moment, you're not being present and enjoying the time that you're with. I can speak for myself, and I know if I'm out to dinner with someone and they're on the phone the whole time, I don't really enjoy it. I feel like they're not paying attention to me. I feel like our time's not important, so don't be that guy or that girl. Don't do that. And be present in your life. When you're there with somebody, be there with them. Don't always be thinking about torts and contracts. And it's tough, right? I know it's easy to say. It's easy to say, but it's hard to do, and that's also something that I want you to get out of this panel. You have to, it's an ongoing thing, and sometimes, some weeks you'll do better at it, and some weeks you won't, and you just have to keep it in mind. So be there with the people, and don't always be on your phone, and unplug sometimes. Next slide. Okay, healthy law students. So I just came back from the bar exam in Tampa yesterday. I was with our students, and they have been studying for the bar 10 to 12 hours a day for the past 10 weeks, and they looked a wreck. I mean, some of them, I was just like, wow, you guys need a haircut and a shower. And that's kind of what it looks like in exam time around here and more people. So you have got to take care of yourself, because if you're not at your peak, your academics are going to suffer. So if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating healthy, if you're not doing things that make you feel good, you are not going to be that successful. Now, you don't have a lot of time, so you're not going to be able to cook a big meal every night. It's just not always going to happen. But I always tell students, learn how to grocery shop on a budget and learn how to cook easy meals that you can freeze for the rest of the week, or that you can eat quickly so that you're not always going through the drive-thru. I worry that our law students probably keep some of the fast food restaurants alive around here because they're always going through the drive-thru, and I think most of us know that if you eat I think of a good word, trash, you'll feel like trash, I guess is not really the word I was looking for, but take care of yourself. We know that law students and lawyers in general are notorious for stress, for alcohol use, for caffeine and other drugs, and I think law students are really no different because of the stress level that goes along with it. Students tend to either self-medicate or they will medicate with caffeine, energy drinks, coffee, Adderall, some people don't like it, all of that stuff to try to keep themselves up, and then they can't sleep, and then they're sleeping 4 hours a night, and then they're a wreck, and they're not doing well, and I'm like, well, I think you need a nap. So I think that she's like, I don't have time to sleep. I'm like, that's ridiculous. You have got to, and you know, your brain just cannot function. So you always want to be making sure that you take care of yourself. Go to the doctor, get health insurance, these kind of things. We can help you with that. We have links for the marketplace, but students don't go to the doctor, they don't go to the dentist, they don't take care of themselves, and then something happens, and it could have been prevented. So I will tell you guys that. So that's your physical health. Your mental health can be affected by law school, I think, because of all the stress. And if you have a history of depression, anxiety, a lot of times that can be exacerbated by law school. And if you didn't have a history of any of that, you may have one coming out of it. And that is just part of law school. So you really want to take care of yourself physically and mentally. You want to pay attention to your thinking. This is a little psychology for you, but we tend to get caught up in very negative thought patterns. And so when you have negative thought patterns, you're a bit of a Debbie Downer around other people and to yourself, and you tend to have a lot more self-doubt. So I always work with students on reframing their thought patterns about themselves. Healthy communication and relationships. I will tell you guys that one of the most important things is your relationships in law school, and you want to form healthy relationships. So you will get to know some people that are not that healthy and don't practice healthy habits. Let it go. Like, hang out with the healthy people, and don't feel like that you are, because you will notice that some people are not doing these things, and they will bring you down. So do not let somebody else bring you down. Hang out with the winners, right? So true. Two sickies don't make a welly, as you say in psychology. So relaxation, we kind of talked about that. Ask for help when you need it. We have so many resources here at Coastal that we're all here to help you out. Student affairs is just one. We have student advising and career placement, academic advising. We have our clinics and externships. Like, we have people here that will help you if you need it. But what happens sometimes is that students are really struggling and they don't come to anybody and they don't say anything, and then their grades suffer at the end of the semester. And I'm like, oh man, I wish you would come to me because I would have helped you, either connected you with resources here on campus or off campus. Jacksonville is a great city that has a lot of resources, so you always want to use your resources. And mental health care, I think everybody around here could benefit from some counseling. So never be ashamed of it. Always, I mean, I'm a counselor, so I'm biased, but we have free counseling that's confidential here at school, so please take advantage of it. It can really help. And sometimes you just need to vent. Sometimes you just need a little bit of feedback. Sometimes you need some coping skills. So we've got that here, so please take advantage of it. Anything you guys want to add on staying healthy?
No, I try to stay healthy, but really doesn't work.
I mean, I do meal prep on the weekend, so my meals for the whole week are already made. So that helps me out a lot because it saves time during the week, and then you already have a healthy option for you in the fridge waiting. Or if you're going to be here all day, you can bring it in your fridge, your cooler, whatever, and that helps a lot too.
Yeah, stay away from caffeine and soda, because you get addicted to that, and then you can't focus without it.
Yep.
And then you crash after you drink it, and you're not taking anything in the professor's saying. So, water's your friend.
Water is your friend. Energy drinks are not your friend. You will see students that have a giant energy drink in this hand and a coffee in this hand, and they're like, I feel so anxious. I'm like, well, I can tell you why, because it mimics anxiety and nervousness, and you don't want to drink a giant monster and then go into a final when you're already nervous. It's going to up that nervous system. So if you want to have coffee, I'm not saying don't have a cup of coffee. You'll see me walk in. Some of you probably did this morning with a coffee. Have a coffee. Just keep it in moderation and watch some of those substances. The last one we talked about, happy, healthy, and hopeful. Embrace your profession and don't forget what brought you here. This is a really good opportunity because all of you are here at Prospective Students Day. You're excited about law school, probably. You want to go to law school or academician, no thanks. But you want to keep in mind what brought you here. Why did you come here? What is your passion? Don't ever lose that. What are your interests within the field? So some students come in and they're like, I don't know what kind of law I want to practice. That's okay. You don't need to. You didn't start school yet. That's fine. You don't know anything about it. But explore your interests as you go through and see if you can find something that you're passionate about. And if you can't, come to me and I'll help you out. Or any of these students that are in clinics, experiential, they're interning, they're externing. Try a bunch of different things. Figure out what you want to contribute, what you can contribute to the field and to your community. Stay engaged with your courses. You're not going to like all your courses, right?
Yeah.
Some of them you are going to hate going to. You might not like the professor, but stay engaged with them anyway. Don't blow them off because that will affect you in the long run. Keep your confidence. Keep your confidence. Don't get down on yourself. Students beat themselves up over things. you don't want to do that. So you want to stay hopeful, and that will help you out in the practice to avoid burnout as well. Slide. Next. These are just some things, you may have already heard this, but to avoid stress when you come in, you can do a lot of prep beforehand when you're in this position about a few weeks out. Money is one of the biggest stressors that I see with students. You guys already hear about this today? Finances, yes? Anybody? Yep. So start saving your money now, create a budget. Students get a check for a stipend check in the beginning of the semester, and they buy a cruise, and then they're out of money by October, and they are stressed out. So make sure you don't do that. I went to Vegas for grad school, and I'm still hanging off. So housing, if you haven't found housing, I saw there were some rental places downstairs, but make sure you the message here is make sure you take care of all that before you come. You don't want to be scrambling the first days, trying to get your housing and get your books and trying to figure out where your classes are. Like, take care of as much as possible beforehand. Roommates, some students don't want roommates, but if you're financially strapped, it can be a good way to split costs. And transportation, make sure you know your route, all that good stuff. If you don't have a car, make sure you know the bus routes and know what you're doing. So any stress you can take off your plate for the beginning of the semester, I would do that now. Next. Yep, so we talked about healthy. So start doing a lot of this stuff now before you go to law school. Don't start it all on the first day. Anything you can do now. We talked about healthy eating, learning to cook and shop. Did you know that in the grocery store, the outside is going to be where your fresh food is, the middle is going to be where your packaged food is. So take care of that. Start exercising now, because if you start then, you're not going to have time. We have a gym downstairs so that you can exercise. Go for a walk around the lake. It doesn't have to be a major thing where you go run a marathon. Go for a walk, get some fresh air. Start good sleep patterns now. Start minimizing your alcohol use if you're still on your college party schedule. I would get off of that. It's not going to serve you well. The students that continue to party and binge drink in law school, their academics are affected. So I can tell you that right up front, right? So true. Practice your stress management, coping, and have some fun. Spend your time with some family and friends now. Go on your vacations. Do what you need to do if you have the ability to. And start school refreshed if you can. Some students can't. They've got to work up until the last day until they start school. We know that. But if you have time to do something fun and see some friends and family, do it now so that you enter school feeling refreshed and energized. Next slide. So here's just our support from our office. I'll leave that up there for you. And I wanted to, in our last minute, throw back to my panelists to see if you have a word to the wise about balancing life and law school. Alan?
I would just say, going off of what you just said about finances, all my friends that just graduated with 3 Ls, none of them saved any money for bar prep. No. So after they graduated, they kind of forgot they weren't getting any more stipend checks. And so everybody's struggling for money and nobody's got a job because you got to take a bar exam. So if you're getting stipends, if you are working, whatever, just put a little bit away. Put $500 away a month. You will thank yourself, so much when you're graduating, because you're going to not be working for 3 or 4 months if you choose to do it that way, and you're going to have no income. So think ahead, and you will save yourself a lot of heartache.
I will just tell you that the first few weeks are going to be really crazy, getting into the swing of things, going to classes, learning how to read the way the professors want you to read for what they want you to find. And someone told me last year that was an ambassador to go up to academic success on the 5th floor and talk to a counselor who will help you figure out a schedule that works for you for studying. But I didn't do that the first couple weeks because I was freaking out about classes. But as soon as I did that, I went and talked to Christina, who's amazing up there. She helped me figure out a schedule that worked for me. So I still got to do dinner, bath, bedtime with the kids, and then I would be, 9 to 12 homework. And in between classes. So I figured out a schedule that worked for me, and from there on, it was almost smooth sailing. There's still going to be hiccups, but it worked out a lot better. Just utilize the resources that are available to you.
And what I can say is just find the schedule for you. Don't worry about what your neighbor is doing. They may study, from a certain time to a certain time without going out, but I urge you to find what's best for you. Keep in contact with your friends and your family because they're going to be your support team. Have fun. Go out for dinner or some music. Just have fun. Embrace this moment. That's my tip to them. Study, no, do study, but you have to learn how to balance it and have a social life. Because if you just do one or the other, you're gonna burn out. Like, it's not possible to just do one or the other. You have to do both.
One last thing, just everybody should just join at least one group. I mean, just the simple fact that you get to know somebody and you have somebody to reach out to. In any group that you join on campus, if you have problems with any class, you just reach out to there's somebody, usually an academic chair, somebody that can help you out. If they don't know the answer, they'll point you in the right direction. You can't go through law school on your own, you'll burn out quick. You need people to reach out to. So.
Absolutely, thank you. And I think we're on time. We're at time. So that was in a quickness, how to balance your life in law school. Yes question, and then if you have other questions, I'll be up here. I've got my cards and things like that. Yes, ma'am.
Are any of you guys currently employed, or I know we were kind of recommended we shouldn't find an employment for our first year.
Good call.
Just kind of wanted to know about life balancing if we did choose to have place of employment for our second and third year.
Yeah. I'd say
You guys know anyone?
to each their own. Your situation's different than everybody else. I came into law school part-time because I was working full-time. I had a remote job, and I said, oh yeah, no problem, I can do this. I nearly killed myself. I, wanted to pull out all my hair. It was just the worst experience of my life. But I was lucky enough that my wife works as well, so I could just take a step back and just fully focus on law school. Not everybody has that luxury. If you have to work, do it. If you can do half and half, and you can do it without, driving yourself insane, do it. But if it's going to be too much, you have to figure out that, you're working towards something here, and you may have to take a step back, financially a little bit, but you're going to be in a much better position later on. But not everybody can do that, so.
If I can, sorry, I want to just chime in. There's some part-time evening students here, so I don't want y'all to get scared. I will tell you, I was full-time student, non-traditional, but I was with students that were working full-time and going to school full-time. It can be done for you. It wasn't but you're also involved. It really just depends. It's a nice balance. I don't want y'all to get scared. Part-time evening is so doable. We've had so many classes of it, so I don't want you guys to get freaked out. I saw some faces like, oh my God, on part-time evening.
Don't panic.
You guys are going to be in a cohort with all the same people that are working, going to school, have kids, have spouses, have a dog, whatever it might be. So you guys are just going to be fine and just use your resources. So I don't want you guys to get scared.
Yeah. Recommended that you don't work more than 20 hours a week, at least during your first year. But we know that it's not realistic. Sometimes you gotta work, you gotta make money, you gotta work. So it's all about what's right for you. So I appreciate everyone's attention. I'm sorry I have to go through it quickness, but I'm here if you have any questions. So welcome, and I hope to see you in the fall.